Take it there, who gon' take it there, who gon' take it there, who gon' take it there? Electricity, 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 electricity. You know what's in the air, you know what's in the air, you know what's in the air, you know what's in the air. It's possibility, it's possibility, it's possibility, it's possibility.
So I want to talk about this whole Trump-Zelenskyy thing. It's been getting a lot of coverage. Obviously, in terms of foreign policy, this is one of the biggest things happening right now in terms of the U.S. because it signals a major shift in U.S.'s alignment with the sort of global order of defense against countries like Russia. And now you have Elon Musk saying that he thinks we should leave NATO, which is kind of what Donald Trump has been hinting at for a long time. And that seems to be the number one sort of point of deal making between Trump and Putin. If there's one thing that Putin seems to want from the United States, it is a weakening of NATO, or best case scenario, America leaving NATO. So I think that there are definitely some threads between what we're seeing here with Zelenskyy and the ongoing relationship with Trump and Putin, obviously, and also the ongoing relationship between Trump and Zelenskyy, because some people might remember that this goes back a long time. This goes back to the impeachment of Donald Trump. The first time Trump was impeached, it was because of Ukraine. And that was before Ukraine was such a big story in the news, but it was after Crimea was annexed by Russia, I think, along with some other territories. So a big part of the dynamic that we're seeing between Trump and Zelenskyy goes back to Trump feeling like, Zelenskyy didn't help him with what he wanted, which was to procure some dirt on Joe Biden related to Hunter Biden and Burisma, etc. So we'll get into all of that. And ultimately, I just think that Trump in moments like this really shows his weakness. He really shows where he stands in terms of who he's standing with and what his incentives are, and potentially what people who are holding something over his head want from him. I think that's what we're seeing from Trump and his administration, including J.D. Vance, in this showdown between him and Zelenskyy is this is what there is pressure on Trump to do. And that is, I think, the most revealing thing about this. So I'll play that clip, and then we'll talk about it a little, and then we'll get into some other clips later that I think are really showing Trump's weakness at the moment.
God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country, that's back to you, far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once this entire meeting? No.
It's total weakness, very clearly. It makes him look really bad and really weak. One, just holding on to a grudge that long is a clear sign of weakness and insecurity. And it has been since 2019. I'm glad you brought that up. I don't see a lot of people in the media who are reacting to the Trump's little tantrum in the Oval Office the other day. Bring that up. They tend to focus on him being up Putin's ass, which is a big part of it. But no, since before the invasion of the Ukraine, he's had it out for Zelenskyy because he wouldn't help him in his witch hunt against Hunter Biden, which I guess witch hunt's a little harsh. Hunter Biden is a piece of shit, but Trump was clearly focused on the wrong things at the time. And what was it exactly? It's tough to remember because of the many, many things that have happened like this over the years. But He withheld aid when Zelenskyy wouldn't help him. So he had just assumed Zelenskyy was as corrupt as him and all the other people he does business with. And then it came out, what was it? There was like a recorded phone call or something that was a key piece of the evidence that got him impeached the first time. So yeah, he's had it against Zelenskyy since then. And he was just looking for an opportunity to give him shit publicly to, one, please Putin, and two, I think he wanted to look tough in front of his fan base. He knew the cameras were on, they were sitting there, he wanted to make a big show of being a tough guy to Zelenskyy, because Zelenskyy is known for being tough and standing up for his people and actually getting out there on the front lines and doing his stuff. So I think he was just looking for an opportunity to try and yell at him and mock him, and that's why they were grasping at straws and mocking the fact that he wasn't wearing a suit when he's the third person to say he was disrespectful from it. It started with Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend asking him about it, and Vance, I saw someone call him JD Maybelline Vance, which is just perfect and fantastic. It's just so petty and childish to get like that, and he just wanted an opportunity to tell him, don't you disrespect me, just like he's been doing to reporters lately and stuff, because he knows his fan base laps that shit up. He looks like a tough guy, he's coming down on this guy, when really it's just this dude's not corruptible like him, and he doesn't like that.
Well, and I think Trump views corruption as his territory. That's what he's good at. That's where he thrives. So I feel Ukraine has always kind of had a reputation for being corrupt, or at least that was what I heard about Ukraine before it became a mainstream topic, even before he was impeached the first time. And Ukraine was kind of on background, but that was when Putin annexed Crimea and that sort of thing. And so I feel like Trump, thinking that Ukraine has a reputation for being corrupt, he probably thought that he could get Zelenskyy to do some corrupt stuff for him. You know what I mean? So it probably was more that pissed him off than anything, is he's like, oh, you're not going to do corruption for me? And so, I think that's just how Trump thinks. And that probably adds another layer to him feeling betrayed by that, or feeling that was a thumb in his nose. The interesting thing is that even if Zelenskyy had done that, Trump would probably still throw him under the bus. Although maybe not, because really Trump, that has seemed to be the most consistent thing about Trump, is that if people will do things for him behind closed doors, so to speak, and do the things that he asks and acquiesce to his pressure, then he does look out for them. If you look at RFK Jr., Trump had no reason to actually follow through on what he promised RFK Jr. for dropping out, but because RFK Jr. did, and who knows whatever else handshakes they had about whatever, but actually following through on that and giving him this government position. And that seems to be what he's doing with a lot of these cabinet positions, is it's just good old fashioned quid pro quo, which, to be fair, is how that's how politics works. So the reality is, Trump, when it comes to corruption and quid pro quo style politics, Trump is just better at it than a lot of people. But when you see that on the world stage, when you see what that looks like, it has this, it comes off as somebody who is focused on incredibly bizarre things, propping up Putin in the face of this war against Ukraine. But the reason for that is because whatever quid pro quo situation exists between Trump and Putin, he's making good on that. And so that ultimately explains Trump's behavior, is that everything we see from him that doesn't seem to make sense to us, or in terms of a global American hegemon type of perspective, it's he's just doing things for people that have done things for him. And I think that's really Trump's only motivation at the end of the day. But I think if you look at Trump's foreign policy, as much of a distraction as a lot of it can be, I think it's also very revealing in terms of what it is that his priorities are. And I think it's also interesting what he said to Zelenskyy in that meeting. He said, you don't have good cards right now. You don't have a good hand, whatever. And Zelenskyy said, I'm not playing cards. And that is the difference between how they're thinking, because Trump's right. Zelenskyy doesn't have a good hand right now. And that's how he ends up in this situation where he's kind of getting bullied and, he's sweating. You know what I mean? Like that's a tough position to be in, getting cornered in the White House like that and then asked to leave the White House. It's like that was rough. I feel for the guy. And, I think Trump thinking of it in terms of like playing cards is that reflects how he views foreign policy in general. Is like he has a certain amount of leverage as the president, and he's not afraid to play those cards to apply pressure on people. And I think the way he does that is very revealing. Like this whole gold card thing that he wants to do, where he wants to let in rich people from around the country and that sort of thing. And just in general, I think Trump is starting to show weakness a little bit. The cracks are starting to show in his veneer. And I think the answer is, the things that benefit Trump the most, like whatever this quid pro quo with Russia is, and him wanting to enrich himself and focusing on wealthy friends in America and abroad. That's Trump's focus, and I think it will ultimately be his biggest political weaknesses. So let me play another couple clips here, and then I'll talk about how that plays into what we see happening with Zelenskyy.
Mr. President, can you clarify, hopefully once and for all, what your expectations are with this email to federal employees? What are you going to use that information for? And do you see it as voluntary, like OPM has said, or mandatory?
Yeah, well, it's somewhat voluntary, but it's also if you don't answer, I guess you get fired. What it really is do people exist? We have something else that's going to be very, very good. We're going to be selling a gold card. You have a green card. This is a gold card. We're going to be putting a price on that card of about $5 million, and that's going to give you green card privileges plus. It's going to be a route to citizenship, and wealthy people will be coming into our country by buying this card. They'll be wealthy, and they'll be successful, and they'll be spending a lot of money and paying a lot of taxes and employing a lot of people. And we think it's going to be extremely successful. Never been done before or anything like this, but it's something that we're going to be putting out over the next, would you say 2 weeks out? Do you want to say a couple of words about it?
Russian oligarch be eligible for a gold card?
Yeah, possibly. Hey, I know some Russian oligarchs that are very nice people. It's possible. They're not quite as wealthy as they used to be. They're not as wealthy as they used to be. I think they can afford. I think they can afford $5 million.
So this?
No, a lot of people are going to want to. A lot of people are going to want to be in this country, and they'll be able to work and provide jobs and build companies and pay taxes. All of those things. It's an incredible. It's an incredible thing. I mean, this is the group that is the first to hear it. Nobody's heard about it. Nobody ever thought about it, but we've been thinking about it very, very strongly over the last week. And I was going to announce it sometime next week, and I figured, why not? We have a lot of cameras blazing right now. We might as well do it now. We'll have cameras.
And so the reason I'm highlighting these clips is because I feel like Trump's weakness is showing a little bit here. And you especially see it in the first clip, where they're asking him about these emails that Elon Musk sent out saying you must send back a list of everything you've done in the last week. This is the same thing he pulled at Twitter. It's a way of making employees justify themselves, and it's also another stage in the sort of fork in the road strategy where he says either you comply with this and do this our way or consider yourself fired. So that's the strategy. Elon has done this before, except as soon as they sent this out, it caused all kinds of problems, not the least of which was that the email is public, so you can email this yourself. They may have fixed that by now, but I'll put the email up again just so people can test it out, just to see, just be little bug testers, I guess. But also, the courts are taking issue with this. Already they're having issues firing all the people that they want to fire. They don't seem to be legally able to do that. It's a horrible idea, first of all, because you are writing this list of everything that you have done as a worker in the government and it seems to be an unsecure email, but also that could be the intention of this. We don't know who they intend to give this information to. And so people at these federal agencies are actively being told not to comply with this. And here you see Trump being asked about it. And in response, he does not say what Elon has said about it, where he says, well, you have to do it, otherwise you're fired, or tough luck. Because the pretense that they're able to do that at the snap of a finger has now crumbled. Doesn't mean that judges down the road are not going to affirm the Trump administration's ability to fire people at will. There's going to be some cases where he's not able to do that. There's going to be some cases where he is, but they have officially hit the roadblock where it's clear that they can't just fire people. They have put out the directives that these people are fired. The courts have stopped it. So for now, these people are still at work. And when Trump is asked about this, what he says is, well, you either respond to the email and I guess you'll be fired if you don't answer. So that's weak. That's a weak answer. And he's showing that he does not have the ability to unilaterally fire people. And he also lets slip that that's not exactly what this is about. They're trying to figure out who's who and who's actually doing what. So these are people who have no idea how the government works. They've gotten rid of all of the people who could help them understand, or whose job it is to act as a liaison between the executive branch and these agencies. Those were some of the first people to go. So now they just have all these agencies and they don't know how many people work there or what they're doing. And they have run into the problem a couple times of firing people that they shouldn't fire. So now this is their method of figuring out what people's jobs are and how they do it and whether they need them to do it. And so obviously the unsecurity of this method is clear, and the fact that Trump doesn't seem to be legally able to do it is settling in for these guys. And so now they're going about it differently. At first it was do this or you'll be fired. Now it's, well, we just want to know if you're there, and if you don't do it, I don't know, maybe you'll be sort of fired. What did he say? He said you'll be basically fired, essentially. So that's, the extent of his power right now, and he knows it. And what this is really about is them trying to get a grip on who's working in the federal government, because they got rid of all the people who actually know that information. And even the Office of Personnel Management, which is headed by Russell Vought ever since he was approved by the Senate. And this is one of the guys who authored Project 2025. So when it comes to this, like wanting to take a chainsaw to the federal government and just get rid of as many people as possible and let the consequences be damned, I mean, this is one of the guys who comes from that ideology. He literally wrote the book on it. So he is now, and the Office of Personnel Management that he runs is the one telling people this is voluntary. So obviously that's a sleight of hand, and it doesn't mean they're not going to get rid of people over it. But it also means that he knows he has to say that. And that is a significant step backward from the bluster that we were getting from the Trump administration out the gate. And then this gold card thing is interesting because it's really just a way for Trump directly to curry favor with various oligarchs and rich people around the world. And even there, he says that he wouldn't be opposed to allowing Russian oligarchs to buy these gold cards and stuff like that. So this is very straightforwardly Trump signaling to all of the rich people that he knows abroad, or people that might want to know him abroad, that, for a fee, they can not only come to America, but also they can begin participating in American politics, lobbying, etc. I mean, that's what the end of invitation is here. And so the flip side of the coin of what he's doing with Zelenskyy is that he's signaling, anybody who's willing to acquiesce to a quid pro quo with me, anybody who's willing to play the game the way I want to play it, we'll take care of you here in America. And it's also, this is to secure a political future and a financial future for himself. The more rich people that he can bring here that are indebted to him or that have benefited, the only reason they're here is because of him. I imagine the reason he's doing this is because he knows rich people from other countries that complain that it's hard to become an American citizen for this reason or that reason. And so, if Trump is at the end of his term, whatever, and eventually leaves power, which is, it's going to happen at some point, unless he dies in office, then, he'll have a network of people that he can always get money from or favors from or whatever. And so really that's Trump's weakness on the foreign policy stage, is that he's for sale. And just like with any politician, like ultimately the biggest leverage point against him is the things that he owes to other people. So the question is still in the air of what is it that Trump owes to Putin so much? And I know people are sick of the Russia story and Russian election interference, blah, blah, blah. We litigated that for years in the first Trump term, and I know people don't have an appetite for that. But I mean, we can't kid ourselves into not seeing that Russia is central to everything that has happened in America in the last 10 years since Trump has hit the stage. And whatever degree you feel Trump is compromised by Putin, by Russia, whatever, there is definitely some hyperbole that goes on. He's a Russian asset. He's a Manchurian candidate. But, I mean, it's clear that Trump is doing what Putin wants. At very least, the least you could say is there is a pivot to a more pro-Russian U.S. foreign policy. That is absolutely the most generous that you could be. But by, displaying this boxing match between himself and J.D. Vance and Zelenskyy, he's showing very clearly that there is some kind of leverage that Putin has over Trump, because this is just how Trump operates. He would not be going to bat for Putin and saying things like we've been through a lot together if there was not some leverage there. And so just like with Elon, where Trump seems to be indebted enough to Elon to just allow him to have whatever power in the federal government he wants, he seems to have that same type of indebtedness to Putin. And the only thing that I could think that would cause him to be that indebted, or that seems to be causing him to be that indebted, the only thing I can see that it seems like he owes to those people is they helped him win. They helped him win. And to whatever degree you buy into the sort of idea that people are crawling through the computers and doing crazy stuff. I mean, Trump tried to litigate all of that in 2020 in terms of him losing, and there was nothing there. So either way, whether it's true or not, it's hard to prove. And that's why nobody has made any concrete allegations against Elon Musk and Starlink. There's rumors, but there's no real indication so far that any votes were changed or anything like that, other than weird hints that Trump has made. But when you look at Trump's behavior and you look at the fact that there are very few people that Trump remains beholden to and refuses to cross, and as of right now, two of those people that I see are Vladimir Putin and Elon Musk. So make of that what you will.
Yeah, you said it very well. If a gold card and a citizenship is really worth $5 million, I will happily sell my citizenship if that's possible. I'll let it go for $2 million in a Canadian citizenship. But the Zelenskyy thing really does make him look weak, doesn't it? It's crazy. He thought he could, in the first place, get Zelenskyy to roll with his corruption and deals when Zelenskyy literally ran his campaign on anti-corruption. He said his goal was to end corruption in the Ukrainian government, and it got him elected. And then he was doing a really good job of uniting the Ukrainian people before the invasion. After the invasion, that skyrocketed. They love him. He works tirelessly on much more of a ground floor level than most politicians. And then Trump thought he could drag him out and, look tough in front of his base and humiliate him. And he had the audacity to try and do that to such a well-liked, hardworking, honest politician, at least relatively speaking, on fucking TV in front of the whole world, and had the audacity to do it in Elon's office, no less. It totally shows exactly how weak, small, and petty Donald Trump is.